All right, we had to wait 11 months for another Bears-Packer game, but here we are, Lambeau Field, Sunday, America's Game of the Week. It's going to be awesome. And, well, except for the spread. Packers are still favored by 6.5, which seems high, but it is what it is, coming off their win over the Lions on Thanksgiving. Of course, Packers 8-3-1, Bears 9-3. Huge game in the NFC North. And we're going to jump right in with, once again, another great battle between Ben Johnson and a defensive coordinator. This week, it's Jeff Hafley. By the way, quick shout out. Jonathan Otten, Bears Fan of the Year, was the one who gave me the tip on leaving the markers down in here. These markers are on fire. They're never written better. That's why he's Bears Fan of the Year. He's also a Navy man, which is why I wore the Navy sweatshirt for him today. So shout out to Jonathan Otten, Bears Fan of the Year, nominee for NFL Fan of the Year. Make sure you're voting for him. But let's jump into this. So, man, I mean, we could talk about how takeaways might decide this game. I really feel like it's the Bears' ability to run the football. What a great battle this should be this week because the Bears are running it better than anybody right now. This offensive line is playing better than anybody right now. However, they face a Packers defense that has been very good against the run. In fact, they're the only defense that has now bear with me here, a negative, which is a good thing, a negative EPA against the run in every single run gap, okay? Now, the reason why that's good is negative. That means you are reducing the amount of points your opponent is gaining per play because you're stopping them. So, good battle up front. However, of course, last week, not many people thought the Bears would push the Eagles around the way they did. And there's a big key injury because Devontae Wyatt is out this week. He's been a very key player here in the middle, their defensive tackle. Not just out this week, out for the rest of the season. Huge loss for the Packers. He suffered an ankle injury late in that Thanksgiving game last week, so they had him for almost that entire game. In fact, it was pretty much the game-clinching sack Micah Parsons had. That was the play he got hurt. So they're adjusting here, and we'll see if they get Carl Brooks, my guy Carl Brooks from Bowling Green, back this week. He missed last week with an ankle. That would certainly help, but they're a little short-handed here in the middle. However, they've done a good job as a defense stopping the run. So I really feel like the Bears' ability to continually run the football against this defense, we'll see who wins that battle, probably go a long way in deciding this football game. Now, another question I have, and you may have noticed this, maybe not. I put OZ, Olamide Zaccheaus, back on the board here ahead of Luther Burden. Just some of the things I've been seeing on film. I know Burden's been getting more opportunity the last couple of weeks. I also think he's been struggling at times with some of those the route details that you heard Ben Johnson talking about this week. I wouldn't be shocked if OZ, that snap count, comes back more towards even between the two of them. So I put him back up here on the board. I also wonder, because Ben Johnson's been willing to go 11 personnel against teams that, you know, maybe it's a better matchup. And the reality is the Packers have been better against 12 personnel than 11. So maybe this is a week where he gets away from some of that 12, 13 personnel a little bit, goes back to more 11 just to kind of catch the Packers off guard. Again, both of those things are more just hunches right now as I look at this matchup. Of course, anytime you play the Packers, this guy number one, Micah Parsons, you got to know where he is. And this is a big difference from like when we were talking about TJ Watt a couple weeks ago. TJ Watt would always be over here, lining up on the defense's left side against the right tackle. He doesn't really move around. Well, with Micah Parsons, you never know what he's going to do. He could be over here against the left tackle. He could go over here against the right tackle. And then one of the things you'll notice that Jeff Hafley's been using a lot is sometimes they just put him in the middle of the defense and let it almost like backyard football. Think about when you're playing like your Turkey Bowl games and you just like, you don't really have rules. You can do whatever you want. And they sort of just let him roam here pre-snap and pick the lane that he wants to go. And that really stresses you up front in terms of your rules as offensive linemen in pass protection, kind of figuring out who's got to be, you know, blocking who. So Drew Dahlman, Caleb Williams, the way they sort that out on the plays where they do that with Micah Parsons this week, that communication will be huge. All right, let's go to the other side of the ball. We got the Packers offense against the Bears defense. And this is fascinating too. Again, I just drew this up differently this week because you look at what Dennis Allen's been doing with these DBs. Might as well leave C.J. Gardner-Johnson out there, number 35. So I still have Kyler Gordon as the nickel one linebacker. They did a lot of this dime personnel last week against the Eagles. Now, do they switch this up? Because there's a chance T.J. Edwards comes back. Now, the way DeMarco Jackson's been playing is incredible. So I guess it's a good thing. This linebacker core could be getting better even as Tremaine Edmonds is out. Noah Sewell is back healthy. So how they use these linebackers, even if TJ Edwards can go, does he go back to playing more of the Mike or the Will because DeMarco's been so good in the middle? Or do they just keep using this dime personnel because they're not? I just can't see them taking CJ Gardner-Johnson off the field right now. You got to think Kyler Gordon's reps are going to go up. Jalen Johnson's reps are going to go up. And Nashawn Wright, CJ Gardner-Johnson are playing too well right now to take them off the field. So what a fun problem to have for Dennis Allen. What a challenge for Matt LaFleur to kind of figure out personnel, who's going to be on the field, how they're going to match up. And you may notice, though, that there's some guys circled in red here. However, this is a Packers offense that's getting healthier with their wide receivers. Christian Watson's been back now for a few weeks. He looks good. That's going to be a big challenge downfield because you know Jordan Love likes those deep balls. We're going to talk about that in a second. Of course, you got Devontae Wyatt, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed, Chicago guy, who's been out since week 2 with a broken collarbone. He could be coming back this week. So how does he fit into all of this? And the Packers also run a lot of 12, but and Musgrave's been doing a really good job filling in, by the way, for Tucker Kraft since Tucker Kraft got hurt. But do they go to more 11 this week because of how depleted they are at tight end a little bit without Kraft? However, you would think that would match up better against the Bears leaving all their defensive backs in. So what a chess match it is over on this side of the ball. It should be fascinating. I just got to say this, though, before we wrap up. Jordan Love, you watch that tape, really any tape of Jordan Love's, but especially last week against the Lions. So he does this thing where he's always angling his shoulders back. He's kind of backing up as he's throwing it. And I'm telling you, man, he gets a lot away with a lot of these, what I would sometimes call prayer balls. The 4th down touchdown last week in the end zone, I mean, that was the definition of a prayer ball. I'm not even sure that was a good decision to throw that ball, but it was a touchdown. So it obviously counts. I thought, though, on that play, if Kevin Byard was the middle safety coming over, he probably would have gotten there. The Lions safety did not. The way Kevin Byard's playing right now, we saw Jalen Hurts underestimate this last week, the amount of ground this guy can cover from sideline to sideline right now. He looks like he's 24 years old again. You got to be aware of that if you're Jordan Love. So I just thought there were a handful of passes in that Lions game last week that the way the Bears, Nashawn Wright's length, right? The way he's been going up and intercepting some of these passes, Jalen Johnson getting stronger. I just don't know if Jordan Love's going to be able to get away with some of these same passes, these 50-50 balls that he throws up sometimes. And obviously, on this side, getting those takeaways, if the Bears can convert those interceptions like the Lions couldn't do last week, they'll go a long way in getting a big win for the Chicago Bears. Bears-Packers, Sunday. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait. And we got a great watch along. So make sure you're following with us on game day here on CHGO.